Hello and welcome. In today's session, we'll be practicing a pose called the Kakasana or the crow pose, or with a slight variation, another name for the pose is Bakasana or the crane pose. So let's get started. To prepare for this asana, we'll go through a sequence of a few other asanas which will help strengthen different parts of the body, especially the upper part of the body, so that we can get a little more easier into the final pose called the Bakasana or the Kakasana. So let's first sit down with the legs wide apart, almost like 10 to 12 inches apart, feet flat on the ground. Keep the torso upright and bring the elbows on the inside of the knees and press the elbows against the knees from inside out. Again, the torso should remain straight, and if it's not comfortable to keep the feet flat on the ground, feel free to use a cushion and place it under your heels. And then we can come out of the pose and get into the pose called the downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Keep the feet close to each other. Keep the palms flat on the ground, fingers spread out and pressing down. You're trying to lift the buttocks up toward the ceiling, at the same time pressing the heels down toward the floor. And stay in this position for just a few more breaths, maybe 3 or 4 more breaths. And from here, we're going to rest in the child pose briefly. So put your buttocks on your heels and then bring your forehead to the floor and relax in that position for just a couple of breaths. And from here, we'll move into the plank on the forearm position. So bring the forearms on the floor, lift the buttocks up, thighs and knees up, and you're on your toes behind you, and your body is completely parallel to the floor. We just call it the forearm plank. And from this position, do a few dynamic movements of upward facing dog and downward facing dog. So when you inhale, slide the shoulders all the way out in front, lift the head up, but lower the buttocks down slightly. The knees or thighs should not touch the ground. When you exhale, bring the shoulders all the way back and then lift the buttocks up toward the ceiling. You may lightly touch the forehead on the ground. That's the downward facing dog. Repeat this movement 2 or 3 more times. When you inhale, upward facing dog with the head lifted up, shoulders are way out in front, buttocks slightly down. When you exhale, shoulders are all the way back, buttocks lifted up, and your forehead touching the floor very lightly. And then once again, sit down and relax in the child pose for a couple of moments. And from here, we're going to get back to the downward facing dog. Again, buttocks lifted up, heels pressing down toward the floor. Fingers are spread out. So let's start with the right leg. Lift the foot up and bring the right knee on the outside of the right elbow. Pause there briefly and then bring it back. We'll try the same thing on the other side. That'll be the right foot. Lift the right foot up, right knee. This time try and bring it close to the left elbow. If possible, on the outside of the left elbow. And then bring it back. Let's repeat this move with the left foot and the left knee. So lift the left foot up, bring the left knee on the outside of the left elbow. Pause there briefly and bring the foot back. Now repeat it on the other side. Lift the foot up, bring the knee on the outside of the right elbow. Pause briefly if you can, and bring the foot back. Downward facing dog. Pause there. We'll repeat these movements one more time. Lift the right foot, bring the knee on the outside of the right elbow. Bring it back. Pause. And then this time bring the right knee on the outside of the left elbow. The foot is lifted up. And then back. Back to the downward facing dog. Pause. Repeat with the left leg. Lift the foot up, bring the knee to the outside of the left elbow. Bring it back. Pause. Again, lift the left foot up. Bring the knee on the outside of the right elbow. And then bring it back. Again, back to the downward facing dog. And once again, relax for a few moments in the child pose. Balasana. And now, to strengthen the core area, we'll do the boat pose. So lie down on your back. First we'll do the movement with the support of the elbows on the ground. So sit up on the elbows and then lift the feet above the ground at the same height as the head. And stay there for about 5 or 6 breaths if you can. This we call the supported boat. You can stay there for a few moments and then release the pose. Lie down on your back one more time. And this time we'll repeat the pose without the help of the elbows on the ground. So once again, come up. Head and the feet should be roughly the same height above the ground. But this time, keep the legs straight and elbows straight in front. Elbows are parallel to each other. Lift the head up and the feet up higher if you can. Keep the elbows very straight in front. And again, this is the final boat pose, and stay this pose for a couple of more moments. 3 or 4 more breaths if you can. And finally, release and lie down on the ground. Just relax for a moment. And then slowly turn to your right side and pushing with the left hand, come back up to a sitting position. And sit up on the toes now, getting ready for the Kakasana or the crow pose. Like I mentioned, there is a subtle difference between the Kakasana and the Bakasana. The main difference is that in the Kakasana, in the final position, the elbows remain bent, while in the Bakasana or the crane pose, the elbows become very straight. So we'll try the Kakasana or the crow pose where the elbows will remain bent. So we're going to place the palms flat on the floor. Palms are spread out almost 10 to 12 inches apart. The palms should be flat, firm, fingers spread out wide and pressing down very evenly on the ground. Come up on your toes and lift the buttocks up and position the elbows on the inside of the knees. The knees are just slightly above the elbows. And here, to just get ready for the position, we're going to just lift both the feet up momentarily and then bring them back down, and do this 2 or 3 more times. So we're going to shift the body weight forward all the way out in front. Try to lift the feet off the floor both the feet together. And if they come up even for a brief moment, just bring them up and then bring them down, back again. Do this 2 or 3 more times. Lift the feet up and down, up and down. And finally, stay there for a moment. And now we'll try to lift the feet up one at a time. So try to lift both the feet up, but then keep one foot down on the ground for support. See if you can maintain this for 1 or 2 breaths. And then come down and repeat it with the other foot. 1 foot is down, 1 foot is up. And once again, you can come down and relax for a moment. And you can just relax on your feet flat on the ground. And now we'll try the full version of the crow pose, Kakasana. So once again, begin by pressing the elbows on the inside of the knees, lift the buttocks up, and very slowly begin to shift the body weight forward. In the beginning, what you may have to do is to lift the feet up, both the feet up, but then you may have to rest 1 foot down just for a little support and developing that balance that you need for the posture. And if you need to do that, feel free to do it a few times. And once you feel that you have this stability and the balance and the strength of the arms, you can lift both the feet up. And if you are very comfortable, you may even try to lift the feet higher so the heels come closer to the buttocks. Of course, depending on individual capability, you can maintain the pose for whatever duration you're comfortable. And whenever you're done, then you can come down and now sit down relaxed in the Sukhasana or the cross-legged posture for a moment. Keep the eyes closed and just observe the physical sensations or any other message or signal that you might have received from the body. Just become aware. Thank you very much for being a part of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear your feedback, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Namaste, and have a wonderful rest of the day.